I'm very curious about, for any writer, their method, basically. Uh, I write myself. I write things myself as well, and I talk any writer that I meet. I always am very curious about their method. There's sort of the dump method, where basically a lot of writers, they just spill out 150,000 words into the word processor and then go in and pare it all down, kind of thing. And then there's the linear, the kind of like the combine harvester people, who they start at a sentence and they make their way down. And by the time they get to 60,000 words, they don't have to fix much of what they've already written. There's that style of writer. There's also a style, and I'm not saying this is a definitive list, but there's also a style of people who, there's a certain word you were talking about, people talking on a bus or something, and you overhear them. There's a certain phrase, and that'll just inspire something into you that will spill something out of you. I'm wondering how you proceed with your stories. Maybe there are different methods for different stories. Maybe you don't have a method, kind of thing. But maybe you can say something a little bit about how it comes together, that an idea for a story ends up on a page and you're satisfied with
Yeah, the initial spark or idea can come from anywhere. Like we were talking about that overheard conversation on the bus, and there was a while back. I was walking along a hiking trail, and then there's a couple approaching me, and the woman just said 1.6, and I knew that, being in Vancouver, she was talking about her house. Whether that was the asking price or the selling price, it didn't matter. But I mean, there was a lot packed into that 1.6. That hasn't turned into a story, but it could. And so the initial idea phase, I find that you might get ideas when it is most inconvenient. I get ideas a lot of times when I'm not in range of a pen or pencil. I get ideas in the shower because that's a really inconvenient time to get an idea that you don't want to lose before you can write it down. Or simple things like if you got some kind of mindless physical task that you're doing, such as weeding in the garden, or if you're out for a run, 60 to 70% of your body or your mind is taken up on moving around and being aware of the world, and there's that other section that is free to kind of roam, and it's kind of, you're distracted, so you're thinking clearly in a way. But beyond the initial ideas, I put my ideas in an idea folder. They usually know whether they want to be poems or stories or screenplays or novels. And I let them sit there, and sometimes they will not get out of that folder if they can't excite me to the level where I think I got to write this now. Or I might just not have the capability to write the story at the time, or there's something missing there that might come in a little later. It might not ever make it out of that file. But I'm really impressed you're talking about some of those other people who start just one sentence at a time, write their masterpiece. I think that's incredible. It's definitely not anything to do with my process. I just want to get a first draft down, and I realize it's going to be garbage, and I would be embarrassed to have it released in that form. But by the time I'm done, maybe there's not an original word left in the whole thing. Maybe every word of 5,000 words has been replaced by a better sentence. And it's super inefficient. And I think we've talked about before, like you're closer to one of those writers who can just take your time and write sentence by sentence and have something fairly decent at the end of that. That's not the case for me. I'm an insane amount of revisions.